With us here on set. He's been looking through the papers. Of course, we were looking at the events in Iowa earlier. What about the French papers? What are they saying on it?
Well, I'm going to make a nod to Iowa, and I turn to Le Point, the weekly paper, and on its website, it's been following the Iowa caucus Republican race, saying the tie between Romney and Santorum, Romney slightly edged ahead, means nothing is clearer than it was before the vote. Now, the writer of that article is concluding that the result shows the Republicans are more divided than ever between the Tea Party, fundamentalist Christians, and moderates, and that article there is describing Mitt Romney as more Martini Party than Tea Party.
Fantastic stuff. Hungarian, not American politics, is the front page, though, for Libération.
There you can see this on the front page of Libération, Les sales coups de Budapest, the dirty tricks of Budapest. That's all to do with events in Hungary where the Prime Minister there, Viktor Orbán, is, according to his critics, being anti-democratic with a new constitution which consolidates his party's power. Now, Libération, the left-wing daily here in France, is saying that he is undermining press and judicial freedoms. It says Orbán has brought in more than 200 laws in Hungary, and most of them have been about creating an authoritarian structure. Now, in that two-page spread there that you can see, there's an interview with Daniel Cohn-Bendit, a French Green MEP. Now, he's saying that the events in Hungary now are not just a question of what we saw in years past with Jörg Haider in Austria and a move to the far right. He says what's happening with Orbán is actually a fundamental attack on democratic processes, and silence now is not acceptable. Now, the editorial in Libération this morning is saying that Orbán is using a classic Stalinist communist approach, the salami tactic, and that's a tactic of taking away liberties one by one, slice after slice.
And that concern about Hungary, of course, joined the European Union in 2004. It's also in Le Monde.
Le Monde has a front-page editorial, and the title there is "Europe must not let Hungary go adrift." It says, watching tens of thousands of protesters in Hungary now taking to the streets shows they've waken up to what the paper says is a nightmare for them. It describes Hungary in that article, in that editorial, as an enfant terrible for the European Union, but it points out that Brussels has one recourse. It can use the Lisbon Treaty, which deprives member states of voting rights if they go against democracy, Stuart.
And Le Figaro, they're looking at France's nuclear power industry, completely different story.
Different story indeed. I can show you the front page there. Of Le Figaro, nucléaire, 10 milliards pour assurer une sécurité maximale. Whopping figures again. 10 billion euros are needed for France to ensure that top safety is prevalent at France's dozens of nuclear power plants. Now, the editorial there is saying, well, of course it's going to be a big issue in the presidential campaign. And the question is going to be, why don't we turn to use all that money, the 10 billion euros, to, you know, put into renewable energy? And the paper in its response is saying, well, that is not the question to ask. Instead, you should defend France's position as a world leader in nuclear power, and it warns that the bill for taxpayers in France to dismantle power plants could be 500 billion euros, again, whopping figures. The paper's also saying that continuing on with the nuclear power does not prevent research into renewable sources of energy. And we just saw there pop up another story in Le Figaro, and that was about the Champs-Élysées. There it is again, you can see. And that piece is basically reporting the facts, which is that the Champs-Élysées, which the French like to call the world's most beautiful avenue, has ranked 16th, a mere 16th, Stuart, as in terms of service and atmosphere in the world's top shopping streets. So the problem there, apparently, is the overflowing rubbish bins. Mystery shoppers went out on the Champs-Élysées and they didn't like it. They thought the service was kind of OK, but the overflowing rubbish bins got to them. London was slumped a bit. Its Bond Street was 10th. And Champs-Élysées now is just lingering behind, 2 slots behind Wang Fujing Avenue in Beijing. So the Frenchies have got to watch out with this.
I've had some suggestions shouted in my ear. Bad Christmas decorations they have. I think they have cracked paving stones, which is not good. They do have Marks and Spencers now, though. Gone up a notch. All right, Nick. Thanks very much, Nick, there with his look through the French papers here on France 24. Headlines again then. Mitt Romney wins by